Fans of Half-Life, a sci-fi narrative first-person video game franchise known for defining the genre with each release, have been waiting for the next installment to the series for 13 years, and on the 23rd of March 2020, they finally got it with the release of Half-Life Alyx, a virtual reality exclusive with a high bar to meet and a lot of hype to live up to. Set in between the events of Half-Life and Half-Life 2, Half-Life Alyx sees its titular character, Alyx Vance, explore the quarantine zone of City 17 while she fights the Combine, antlions, headcrabs, and other dangerous aliens. The game is fantastic, there's no doubt about that. Despite some pre-release concerns about reviving a series from before Obama's presidency, and some haters who were angry that the new title required a virtual reality headset to play, the general consensus from players and reviewers since its launch is that Half-Life Alyx is a VR gaming masterpiece. And with a 93 on Metacritic, an Editor's Choice 10 on IGN, and an overwhelmingly positive 98% on Steam, Alyx has certainly lived up to the series' expectations. But what makes Half-Life Alyx so great? Many of the reviews for Alyx have praised the game for its intricate environment art, compelling level design, and strong narrative storytelling. And don't get me wrong, even as a new player to the series, I was enthralled by the game's incredible detail, especially when compared to many other VR titles. But these elements aren't unique to virtual reality. In fact, they've been a primary focus for narrative first-person games since, well, the release of the original Half-Life in 1998. That's not what I want to focus on. Rather, what's most intriguing about Half-Life Alyx's success are the parts of its game design that are unique to virtual reality as a medium: the controls, interaction systems, and VR game mechanics. If you analyze the controls for normal flat-screen games, you'll find the problems have largely been solved. You use a mouse and keyboard to move and look, and if you point the screen at something, you can usually interact with it. Popularized in the late 90s with titles like Quake, and again the original Half-Life, these controls work well, they're easy to understand, and they've become a gaming standard for the more than 20 years since. Now enter virtual reality. In VR, you wear a head-mounted display and hold two controllers that are tracked into the 3D world. This directly immerses the player into the game they are playing. No longer are you viewing a game through a screen, instead, you feel truly in the experience. But building experiences around VR can be a newfound hell for game developers. You see, unlike with flat-screen games, the design of control schemes for virtual reality is far from solved, and VR developers are faced with many difficult problems just to design the simplest of interactions. For example, how should the player move? If a game uses continuous movement, the player might get motion sick, but alternative methods like teleportation can often break immersion in a medium designed to be as immersive as possible. Although locomotion is one of the more complicated issues for VR games, design challenges of similar complexity exist for actions like opening a door, picking up an item, or reloading a weapon that could each be handled with one button press in flat-screen gaming. And once you figure out a single best solution to all those micro-problems, then the big question rears its head. How might we design our interaction systems to be accessible, so that they can be used by people with disabilities, with different VR hardware, and with varying sensitivities to motion sickness? These questions aren't easy to answer, but Half-Life Alyx has tried, and apparently succeeded in doing so. As such, Alyx provides an excellent case study for what works or doesn't in game design for VR interaction. I'm going to go for a deep dive into the ways that the user physically interfaces with the virtual world of Half-Life Alyx through the game's interaction systems, VR controls, and interactable set pieces. By looking at the mechanics of the game itself, dissecting interviews with developers from Valve, the studio behind Alyx, and analyzing the end-user responses of players and reviewers, I will attempt to identify Valve's answer to questions like those posed earlier, and, more importantly, the design methods by which they arrived at those answers. We are a long way from our Ready Player One fantasies, but games like Half-Life Alyx bring us that much closer. As VR grows, creators have a responsibility to build interaction systems that work well for everyone. I hope that the insights gained through my analysis of Alyx's development process will be useful to other VR developers who wish to make the most immersive, accessible, and fun controls possible, and to the VR players who will be playing their future games. But in a larger sense, understanding and optimizing the designs of these virtual interfaces extends far beyond gaming. The fields of virtual, augmented, and mixed reality have so many applications across a multitude of disciplines, and the controls of VR games today could power the architectural walkthroughs, film shoots, and virtual surgeries of tomorrow. So what are you waiting for? Wake up and smell the ashes, grab your crowbar, or I guess gravity gloves, and let's jump into the VR control design of Half-Life Alyx.